In this video I will show you what happened when I set out to complete the 100 days challenge for a second time, but this time I focused on defeating the Ender Dragon. I imposed a few additional rules on myself. I wasn't allowed to sleep or to use a shield and had to eat a vegan diet. After playing for over 90 hours, this is the story I want to tell you. A story on how I set out to defeat the Ender Dragon and end her reign of terror over the dimension she resides in for the 7th time. With an allergy to bats and meat and a serious distrust for shields, I started out on a small plain between a desert and a forest. I could see a dark oak forest and a savanna nearby. A ravine was situated right next to me and there was a dungeon sticking out the side. This is actually the first dungeon I came across since I started the first attempt at the first video. This would be a great start for an experience farm if I decided to settle in the area. I decided to go down into the ravine and harvest all the coal and iron I could find to craft iron tools. Went back up to gather wood and saw a desert village nearby. I disabled the spawner that turned out to be a skeleton spawner. They are really dangerous in the early game, and looted the chests. I thought about running towards the village, but I wouldn't be doing anything else than mining for the night, so I could use the head start provided by the ravine. Dug down for the rest of the night and crafted a compass and a clock right as the sun rose. I placed the stairs and made my way to the village to look for food, as this would be a big concern without sweet berries. There was an insane amount of hay in the village that would last me for a very long time. I looted all the chests and I had never seen this many emeralds in a village before. Gathered some sugarcane and made my way back to the mine to start strip mining. I heard a lot of spiders above me and suspected a cave spider spawner above. After digging 2 blocks upwards, I saw a lot of cobwebs, making it likely that there's actually a spider spawner. I blocked it up because cave spiders would be able to jump down this little hole if they spotted me. I went back to the main hole and started a tunnel 1 block above the tunnel I started out with, and within a few blocks I dug into the abandoned mineshaft. I explored a little bit but wasn't too confident enough to fight the cave spiders yet, and since the mineshaft is above my tunnel, there wasn't a good chance on fighting diamonds in it anyway. I crafted full iron gear during the night, and the footage for day 3 is corrupted and only shows a static menu screen despite the right audio recorded. I will keep day 3 short and show you what happened where. I wanted to start a new tunnel towards the village and found diamonds early on, marking my personal record of finding diamonds via mining on the beginning of day 3. Encouraged by that luck, I went into the mineshaft and found 2 cave spider spawner within a few blocks from each other. Found a lot of iron exploring and a few more diamonds as well. Smelted another portal and ended up in a big cave in a soul sand valley, but went back to the overworld as I wasn't keen on fighting ghasts and skeletons right now. I continued exploring, but at this point there were too many enemies in the unexplored parts of the mineshaft, so I went to the hall and smelted all the valuables. When I started recording day 4, I realized that the video recording was bugged, and after restarting OBS everything was back to normal. I have no idea what happened there. That means this is the only instance of anything bugged. I spent most of this day chopping trees as I wanted to start farming and herding soon. Found a few cows not far from the ravine, fed them, and by nightfall I started a new tunnel and found 8 more diamonds and other good loot throughout the night. I built a small sugarcane farm, although I will move it quite soon, and gathered 5 cows to a temporary pen the next day to start breeding them. Got back to the ravine to organize the chest and got jumped by a creeper. That is why I usually avoid ravines, my heart can't bear it. Did nothing except mining throughout the night and found nothing special. With the sun back in the sky, I prepared the new pen near my base and brought over the remaining wild cow and all the domesticated ones. I started work on a staircase from the bottom of the ravine upwards to the surface where my pen is. Later that night I went back into the abandoned mineshaft and continued exploring. The mineshaft was cut in 2 by an underground ravine, and as I hate the mobs dropping down in these, I just walled it off and made my way back. I spent the next day working on the staircase from the ravine upwards, started work on a sugarcane farm and terraformed the area I claimed my own. Right as the phantoms attacked, I planted some sugarcane and went back to mining. I found 4 more diamonds that night and continued work on the sugarcane farm the next day, and also started work on a wheat farm, but had to terraform quite a lot beforehand. During the night I wanted to take a look at the ravine intersecting with the mineshaft and grab some obsidian. I found a chest with nothing special inside, and the mineshaft appears to be even bigger on the other side of the ravine. I went back to smelt all the goodies and finished the sugarcane farm the next day. I continued work on the wheat farm, and during the night I began work on the cave spider farm. I tripled the area of the wheat farm on day 10, spent more time terraforming and continued work on the spider farm. I bred the cows, harvested sugarcane and did some terraforming on day 11, and when I went back to continue the spider farm I messed up the lighting at some point and had to flee the area because the spawner were activated and I was too cautious of the poison. On morning 12 a zombie paid me a visit. This actually reminds me of the first attempt at this video. I had settled next to the Badlands, which I saw for the first time here. Sorry for the bad quality, by the way, it will get gradually better throughout the flashbacks, and went out exploring on the 5th day. I had seen a structure in a nearby ocean a few days before and wanted to check it out. A thunderstorm was raging and a number of drowned with tridents spawned. I wanted to kill a few of them to maybe get a trident, but there were too many drowned throwing tridents at me. Then a skeleton attacked me on land and I threw away my axe because I misclicked. And another trident finally killed me. I was too confident that time, but at least I had learned something about the ocean. On morning 12 a zombie paid me a visit and gifted me a carrot, which I immediately made a field for and used the bones I had laying around to kickstart the carrot production to support my future villagers. I was nearly done with the spider farm during the night, although I would need to do some experiments with the water flow, as the design I used wasn't made for multiple spawner and I had to adjust it a little bit. I slaughtered the cows the next day and already had enough leather and sugarcane for 15 bookshelves and the enchanting table. I tended to the crops, built the enchanting area and enchanted a diamond pickaxe and a sword. I crafted a second diamond pickaxe, and when testing the XP farm for the first time I had a new idea for the water flow, which I implemented immediately and it actually worked. Although I have to admit I overestimated the amount of spiders and experience per minute, and since the farm will only work if I'm near the spawner and I don't want to AFK that much during the challenge, I might mine a bit around the area, but this won't work as I thought it would. I may have also enchanted something, I don't know. I didn't write it down. On day 15 I harvested all the grain and replanted the carrots, nearly filling the whole farmland, and went back to mining where I found some diamonds. I may have also enchanted something, I don't know. I didn't write it down. The next day I went over to the village and there were no more villagers. No wait, there's one, and there's another one, and a third one. I could hear some villagers getting hurt somewhere below me. Maybe they got lost in some caves or something? I don't know. These 3 will be enough, although I should make sure they are safe and don't meet the same end as everyone else who once lived here. I tried to get the 3 remaining villagers over to my base, but it took too long and I had them sleep in a house during the night, and I spent the whole night digging out an area for a new nether portal near the staircase, hoping to get another location than the first one. I brought over the 3 villagers the next day and got them in their new breeding boxes. During the night I went into the nether through the new portal and ended up next to the first one. At least this is a secure starting location without that much danger above or below the portal. And I spent the next 2 days exploring the nether and harvesting a lot of quartz to get more XP, and I found a remnant of a bastion, but wasn't too keen on going in since I died in the first bastion I ever came across in the second attempt of this video. I had done some research on how to find a nether fortress, as I was getting really unlucky with those, and was bridging out on the east-west axis when I came across a bastion and wanted to take a look at what to loot there, and more importantly I was looking for nether wart to get into brewing. I took my time in order to be careful and managed to loot the first part, which was the enclosed housing units, and when I started exploring the Hoglin stable I made sure to have a safe spot on the other side of the bridge, but I didn't know that I should have enclosed that safe space towards the other side as well, as there would be piglins spawning. You can see where this is going. A piglin brood noticed me and wanted to attack me. I ran to the safe spot, and when I hit him, another piglin stabbed me in the back. Yeah, that happened. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, exploring, gathering quartz, found a remnant of a bastion and was having none of it. I continued until my inventory was full, but sadly didn't find another fortress. I arrived in the middle of night 19, crafted 2 bows and tried my luck enchanting, but wasn't getting too lucky. Right before dawn I went upstairs and harvested the pumpkins and the carrots and fed the villagers. I went back into the nether to continue exploring and gathering XP. I started exploring a new area and went in a big circle, but didn't find another fortress again and ended up in a small warp forest near my portal. This side of the portals is basically explored, and I couldn't find a single fortress. That means I would need to bridge out towards the other side of the portal the next time. I arrived on the overworld at the dawn of day 22 and worked on the farms, planted more carrots to increase the villager output and went back into the Nether. I built a bridge towards the side I haven't been to yet, but was running out of building materials to bridge this huge ocean of lava. This reminds me of the third attempt at this video. I built a long bridge on the east-west axis again, as I was having bad luck with fortresses again, and it ran through a crimson forest. The biggest problems were the hoglins that spawn or jump onto the bridge, but with a 2-block tower between them and me, I can hit them, but they can't hit me. I found a fortress with that bridge, and this was the second time I went there, but this time I was going to clear the whole fortress to get some nether wart, but couldn't find any. I found some blaze rods and made my way back. There was a hoglin on the bridge again, so I built the usual tower and started attacking, but this time the hoglin could hit me back and threw me in the lava. Tot. 67 days down the drain because of this. Oh lord. Whatever, let's get back to the original video. I came back to my base in the middle of day 23 and worked on the staircase as I would need more cobblestone anyway. I may have also enchanted something, I don't know. You get the picture. And I made a great bow. Yeah, you should know that. There was a random villager stuck in the fence of the pen. I have no idea who that is or where he or she came from, but I offered a bet in one of the villager breeders and they accepted immediately. I went back into the Nether to continue the bridge over the ocean of lava and look for a fortress. I looked for a long time but found nothing really, and even got the hot tourist achievement at some point. That's disappointing. I came across a ruined nether portal that was missing just one piece of obsidian, so I bartered with 2 of the local piglins and they were quite generous and gave me 2 pieces of obsidian. I finished the portal and arrived in the middle of day 25 in a desert close to a savanna, and I couldn't see anything of interest. I mined the 4 corner pieces of the portal and went back in, and right around the next corner there it finally was, a nether fortress. After close to 2 hours of searching, I finally found one. I even arrived at one of the blaze spawner that was sitting on a tower in the middle of a lava lake. For that reason I started work on a platform made of cobblestone over that sea of lava. This would make farming the blazes easier and safer as well, and I made my way back home when I ran out of cobblestone and had 7 blaze rods. The most dangerous part of the route is probably the bridge over the huge ocean of lava that runs through a basalt delta where lava slime spawn that randomly drop down and could hit me on the bridge. That reminds me of the 4th attempt. I was building a bridge again that was going directly into a bastion near some nether wart and found a diamond pickaxe with mending on it as well. I went back to grab more building materials and went towards the other direction, where I managed to actually find a nether fortress and explore it. I found 2 blaze spawner in the last area I explored, and with a few blaze rods in my inventory I made my way back. The bridge ran through a basalt delta and I had already built a 1-block wide roof and some sort of railing on one side, but the other side was exposed. 2 lava slimes were waiting for me, and somehow the big slime could hit me despite not fitting inside the tunnel. I did not realize the first time how much damage they did and died the second attack. That was unnecessary, but whatever. Now you can see why I was so careful with the bridge. The way back went smoothly and I arrived on the evening of day 26. I organized the new loot and crafted 2 brewing stands and powered rails, checked in with the villagers, and the new villager was quite productive in the meantime. I built the rail extraction system and went to the spider farm to get some ice. Mining around the area I found diamonds a few blocks away from the chest room. Fortune 3 did a great job and turned 3 diamond ore into 9 diamonds. I killed a few spiders and went back upstairs and spent the next day chopping trees and spent the night mining and got 29 diamonds out of 12 diamond ores. Fortune 3 really is a game changer. On day 28, it was back to terraforming and chopping trees.
I also enchanted something.
Spending the night in the mine, where I finally found some more lapis lazuli, which should be enough for a long time. And the next day I built a fence around my land and got 8 more diamonds while mining during the night. I brought the extraction rail system up and heard a zombie somewhere nearby and found it in one of the small spaces on the upper area of the ravine. I killed it and set out to light up that part, but when I got to the place there was a random creeper I hadn't seen beforehand. I panicked and jumped down. Lucky enough, didn't take that much damage and managed to kill the creeper. I started construction on the roof over my land, but night came soon and I spent the night in the mines again, gathering 19 more diamonds. I smelted another nether portal, but the sun was already rising, so I continued work on the roof and built a staircase to the first floor. During the night I jumped into the nether portal and ended up in a small ravine. When I built upwards, I ended up at the small bridge close to my portal. It was expected, but I was still disappointed. From day 32 to day 35, I chopped down trees, worked on the roof and started construction on a trading hall, but tried a different approach to get the villagers in their booths because the method I used before took way too long if the villagers were not cooperating. I tried it and it didn't work out as I hoped it would, but I changed it a bit and it worked even better than I originally expected. Day 36 and day 37 were spent at the trading hall trying to get the enchants from librarians I deemed most important, and as I wanted to use sticky piston for this trading hall, I finally had a reason to start exploring the area. I explored the desert next to my base in hopes of a desert temple to find a saddle, but the biome found an end on one direction quite soon. I was back at my base during the night and harvested the farmland once more, and as my grain stocks were big enough at this point, I switched the entire field to carrots. That's 400 blocks of planted carrots. That should make for quite a tasty yield in the future. I started brewing the weakness potions, and as the sun rose I set out towards the other side of the desert. I gathered some dark oak and 12 saplings, but soon realized that the desert is pretty small and there's no desert temple anywhere, and right before dusk I came across a swamp not far from the desert, and I decided to build a small shack for the night in hopes of spawning some slimes in the area. I stayed in the shack and built a small underground room and nothing happened. The next morning I ran around the swamp and couldn't find a single slime. I continued exploring and found the swamp to be quite large, but being cut in two by a big lake in the middle of it. I kept to my compass and found the swamp to be near the end of the desert I was living next to, but the part I explored the first day. I built a tower in the lake as the sun set to keep a lookout for slimes and be safe from phantoms. I saw 2 slimes during the night, but both of them despawned. I think because I was just too far away to keep them spawned? I don't really know. I jumped down the next day, tried to find the slimes, but yeah, they were gone. I was fed up with the swamps at this point and decided to make use of the slime chunk mechanic. 1/10 of all chunks are slime chunks. That means in layers below Y level 40, slimes will spawn in a slime chunk regardless of light levels. Slimes need a maximum of 3 by 2.5 by 3 area to spawn, so I decided to dig out an area of 16 by 16 by 3 blocks centered between 4 chunks. That should check 4 chunks for slime chunks with an area of just 1 chunk. At least that's what I hoped when I came up with this idea. I spent the rest of this day and part of the next day digging out 6 of these rooms covering 24 chunks. This amount should put my chance of finding at least 1 slime chunk by more than 92% if my calculation is right, but only if these rooms will work in the first place. I also tamed the cat on that second day, harvested pumpkins and sugarcane and got the 4 next villagers in position for the trading hall. On day 43 I got all the new villagers in their spots, which worked really well with my new method, and I checked for slimes but found none, and expanded the ways between the rooms to raise the chance of slimes spawning in those areas, and found
32
more diamonds while digging. The next day I harvested pumpkins and sugarcane again and expanded the rooms for slimes, and maybe went a little overboard with it, but couldn't find any slimes yet. I came up with an idea to circumvent the fact that I was missing slime balls, and it actually worked. Although I would need to seclude the zombie once it infected the 4 villagers each time to keep track of the number of times I cured the villagers. That night I lured a zombie inside, it infected the first 4 villagers and I started curing them immediately. I spent the next 2 days at the trading hall getting the villagers cured and ready for my big infinite money scheme, and tamed more cats to position them on the roof to scare away the phantoms, making my life so much more relaxed. I should have done that way earlier. On day 48, I could finally start trading with the villagers and started making money. I could buy 1 bookshelf for 1 emerald, destroy it and sell the 3 books I would get for 3 emeralds. This could be done at least 2 times per day per librarian, although the chances of getting one to sell the bookshelf is a bit lower than getting one to buy books. I enchanted everything I could during the night and traded with a farmer to finally start buying gold and carrots. The best food in the game, in my opinion at least. The following day I continued trading and enchanting and went back into the Nether to gather more blaze rods and continue improving the bridge over the lava ocean and the platform around the blaze spawner. That actually reminds me of my 5th attempt at this challenge. I was running around the Nether again in search of a Nether fortress and decided to bridge out westwards. Again, I dug into lava, which happens quite a lot in the Nether, and realized a bit too late, took some damage but still managed to survive. I thought about waiting for a moment to regenerate health and make sure I wouldn't die if I made a second mistake, but I decided I would be more careful now and continue on mining through the netherrack. But I wasn't careful enough and didn't see a hole in the ground, and fell to my death. That was bad. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, back to the Nether to go to the fortress. I forgot my golden boots, and since my diamond boots are better than my trousers, I farmed a few golden nuggets to craft a pair of golden leggings. I made my way through the Nether, gathering more gold nuggets to craft the golden apples I needed for curing the remaining librarians, and randomly dug into a piece of ancient debris. That was quite lucky. Spent some time here and there to improve bridges, as they can be quite dangerous, as you guys know by now. I put down a nether portal. Behind the small wall I built near the first blaze spawner and took a look on the other side. I arrived in the middle of day 50 and ended up on a small island in a lake surrounded by a forest on one side and a swamp with a village next to it on the other side. I lit up the island to create a safe space if I would need to flee from the Nether, whatever the reason. I killed a few blazes, and thanks to looting 3 the drop rates are just so much better, and after a few minutes I already gathered 30 blaze rods. I used up most of the cobblestone and used the remaining materials to improve the bridge over the lava ocean. Made my way back and arrived at the dawn of day 51. I traded again and spent some time improving the slime area, although I wasn't so sure anymore if this would work properly. I prepared the next 4 librarian for their upcoming infection and lured a zombie inside during the night. It infected the 4 librarian and I cured them. For the rest of the night I harvested pumpkins and sugarcane again. Trading and curing the 4 villagers for a second time was done the next day, and I leveled 1 cleric and he was offering ender pearls. That was quite lucky. The last attempt I employed 4 clerics and only 1 of them offered ender pearls, but we will come to the story of that attempt soon. I enchanted my bow Skyfire with infinity the following day and was now finally able to use her. The last time I went into the Nether I forgot to look for nether wart, and I had suspected my big lava bridge to cross with the Nether fortress if I would extend it further. I grabbed a lot of cobblestone and went on my quest. I improved the bridge, giving it a roof and railing for most of it, although the roof is way more important for this one, as I would be safe from magma slimes that could drop down in the basalt delta. I expanded the path through the netherrack, and I was right. The path led directly to the Nether fortress, just a different part of it. I explored the fortress and defeated every enemy that crossed my path, and I have to say it again, I am really impressed by the acoustic environment in the game. The sounds made by the enemies and ambience from the areas really make a great composition. I found a settle in the fortress and gathered all the gold ore I could get my hands on my way back. I tried to hunt down some gas before going through the portal to brew some regeneration potions later on. I came back to my base on the dusk of day 55 and started brewing potions I wanted for the Ender Dragon fight later on. Built a small nether wart farm next to the breeder, and on the next day I tamed a horse and continued preparations for the fight in the end dimension. When I felt ready, the sun was already setting, so I stayed for the night and made some more preparations. I grabbed the bed, carved a pumpkin, crafted fireworks and enchanted 2 parts of my armor with Thorns 3 enchant. I started my journey from which I might not return on day 57, followed the Eyes of Ender and ended up at a small mountain. I dug down and straight into the stronghold. Quite early on I discovered a ravine going through the stronghold and remembered that this could destroy the portal room, rendering the stronghold broken. A bit later I even found a second smaller ravine running through another part of the stronghold. At this point I was really concerned that I might have to look for another stronghold entirely. The library spawned in this ravine and was looking really weird. I stumbled upon the Ender portal and luckily it was completely intact with one eye already placed. I filled the remaining spots, gathered some stone if I would spawn in the void, put on the carved pumpkin and jumped in. Before we get into this fight, I want to tell the story of how my 6th attempt ended. This was my best attempt up to that point and I set foot in the stronghold for the first time. I was careful throughout exploring the structure and ran out of torches at some point and had to dig for coal, but it didn't take too long. I found the portal room and there was not a single eye placed in there. I jumped in and spawned on a secluded platform, made my way over to the other side and decided to wear a helmet instead of the pumpkin to get more protection. I started destroying the crystals and think I managed to kill all of them, although I wasn't too sure. Right as I wanted to turn my attention towards the Ender Dragon herself, I angered the first Enderman, and shortly after another one. I placed down water to keep the Enderman away and focus on the dragon, but she shot her dragon breath at me. Now I know that I probably didn't destroy all the crystals if she still spits her magic. And a few minutes later, without anywhere to go, the Enderman and the dragon breath killed me. The first time I entered the end and fought the Ender Dragon and I died. But I knew what I did wrong and was even more motivated to start all over again. Now back to the main story. I spawned in a box inside the End Island and dug my way out. I started building these little roofs at different pillars to have a safe space if I wanted to put on the diamond helmet again and needed some place to hide from Enderman. I started shooting the crystals and the reduced vision wasn't as big of a deal as I originally thought. I destroyed all the crystals and made sure to have the slow falling buff active the whole time, but forgot to drink the strength potion when it was time for that. I slowly chucked away the health of the mighty Ender Dragon and after a long fight I managed to defeat her. I cannot tell you how relieved I was at this point that I managed to win this fight the second time around after spending so much time achieving this. I grabbed all the XP and went from level 14 to level 67. I grabbed the dragon egg as a trophy and started my journey to find an end city. I did not think it would take this long to finally find one, but at least I got lucky with the first city I found after searching for what felt a very long time. Had a ship spawn with it. I built up towards the ship and was welcomed by the sound the shulkers made. I have to admit I like the sounds. Fighting them was weird and they were really annoying sometimes. I raided the ship and I just realized that I forgot to take the dragon head. Whatever. I walked to the edge of the ship and jumped down. Lucky for me I still had the slow falling buff because I had no idea I had to activate the elytra and I would have died here. I figured out how to use it and the fireworks as well and made my way into the end city. I killed quite a few shulker, leaving me with 8 shulker shells, ender chests and a nice amount of loot. Especially diamonds are quite common in these cities. I made my flight back to the portal I came from and at some point just dropped out of the sky. I don't know how or why and I got lucky that there was an edge below me and I did not simply drop into the void. I tried to figure out if I accidentally pushed a button that disabled the elytra again, but I couldn't repeat it. I still don't know what happened there. Maybe it was lag. My computer is working really hard to keep up with loading the chunks. I made my way through the portal and was pleasantly surprised by the credits. I didn't know that there would be this conversation trying to break the fourth wall. I woke up in the stronghold in the middle of night 60. That means I spent 2.5 days in the end, not as long as I expected. I made my way to the surface where I left a stone pillar if I wanted to get back to the portal sometime in the future. Made my way back and forgot to mark the path I took for the most part. At least Eyes of Ender are really cheap for me to craft. I traded, crafted the shulker boxes and started preparations for a gunpowder farm. On day 62 I started work on an ancient debris tunnel as I needed quartz for the gunpowder farm and decided to combine both. I found 3 ancient debris and came back in the middle of day 63 once I had more than enough quartz. I would need a lot of wood to craft the 1000 trapdoors needed for the farm, and during the night I went hunting for gunpowder and nearly died while fighting against a creeper. The next day a traveling merchant arrived and I wanted his leads, and I wanted to see what happens if I would randomly attack him or his llamas. I took aim and killed my horse. Oh, what was I even thinking? I chopped down more trees and tamed a few horses during the night until I finally found one that was fast enough. The next day I moved the spruce tree farm to the top of my base and finally had enough materials on day 66. I started exploring as the farm would work way better on top of a deep ocean. I flew the whole day and thought I should have maybe gotten a cartographer to sell me a map of an ocean monument. I killed some creeper throughout the night to craft more fireworks and came across a huge mountain inside a savanna the next morning. Even a village on the mountainside, this would be a great spot for a fortress with a mountain in the middle. I continued my flight and came across more villages until I finally found a great spot for the farm. There was a savanna village on a nearby shore and I started construction. I spent the rest of day 67 and the whole days 68, 69, stop laughing, 70 and 71 building the farm and was finally finished on day 71. I thought this would take longer for what it's worth. I went AFK for 10 minutes and realized afterwards that I messed up the redstone circuit. I fixed the circuit on the beginning of day 72 and went AFK for 20 minutes, roughly one in-game day. The next day I jumped down to disable the redstone circuit and forgot to open the elytra. Yeah, that's how I died. I'm sure this has happened to most players wearing the elytra for the first time, but maybe not in a hardcore world. Yeah, that's the story of my 7th attempt and the ends of the other 6 attempts. Once I had finished building the farm, I wanted to kill the wither and I think I would have succeeded. It's easy to tell that I am in love with the game again and still had a lot of fun while working on this video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching and stay safe out there.